Is Northwest childhood going south? Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Today I want to talk about Northwest. She's been making a lot of headlines in the news because she has been seen with her mom out and about on vacation wearing some very inappropriate outfits for a 12-year-old. For those of you that may not be familiar, Northwest is the 12-year-old daughter of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. So already thoughts and prayers to this poor girl. And the chances of North actually growing up in like a normal, well-adjusted childhood were probably pretty much slim to none from the very beginning. But it does seem like things are snowballing and getting worse, and I want to get into this. So before I get started, my usual disclaimer, I don't know anybody in this video. I don't know anybody personally. I don't know what people are like behind closed doors. I am simply basing my analysis on the public information that is available to everybody. And honestly, the things I'm talking about aren't really even about the celebrities. They're actually about the lessons that we can take from celebrities and their public images that we can actually take into our everyday lives so we can have happier, healthier lives and relationships. So, Northwest, the 12-year-old daughter of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, has been seen out and about with her mom on vacation wearing some outfits that many, myself included, believe are inappropriate for a 12-year-old girl. Emphasis on girl. Like, she's a girl. She's not even a teenager yet. She's been wearing mini skirts, corset tops, high-heeled boots, and yeah, a lot of people are deeming it inappropriate, and I can't argue with them. Now, I would argue that the over-sexualization of teen and preteen girls is actually like rampant, and it's a much bigger issue. So I'm not necessarily putting all of this on North or even Kim or Kanye or anything, but it is an issue. It absolutely is. I realize that North is part of the Kardashian family, and they absolutely do these things for attention, to get attention and get people talking about them. That is their bread and butter. So at the end of the day, I'm not shocked, because being shocking is the least shocking thing that they could do at this point. However, but it does bring up some interesting conversations about the over-sexualization of teen and preteen girls. Now look, I do believe that it is absolutely normal for like teens and preteen girls to have this desire to like feel older and dress older and start pushing boundaries and things like that. Like, that's a normal part of the growing up process. Most of us probably went through that at some point. However, it is the role of the parents to make sure that that happens safely. It's the reason why teens and preteens are not supposed to just be allowed to run free and do whatever they want, because at the end of the day, while they're probably going to be trying to rebel, it's up to the parents to make sure that they give them enough leash so that they can learn and grow and develop, but that they still keep them protected so that the choices they make at that age don't negatively affect them for the rest of their lives. I firmly believe that's a parent's role. Like, again, teens, preteens, they're trying to gain independence, they're trying to explore creativity themselves, but it's up to the parents to make sure that that creativity, that experimentation happens within a safe environment and is age appropriate. So look, when I was North's age, you know, like 12, that age range, I totally wanted to play around with fashion. I totally wanted to wear crazy outfits and put things together. And I mean, I look back on some of the things that I was trying to wear and put together. In my time period, it was pre-social media because I'm old, but like I would read like fashion magazines, and like a lot of the fashions, like back then you couldn't get access to every fashion that was available in the magazine, so I would try to like piece together just little things I could find at like my local mall and try to recreate looks from magazines. Like, I tried all that. However, it was confined to certain spaces, primarily the privacy of my own home. Like, there were definitely rules and restrictions on like what I could wear at home, like if I wanted to play around and create an outfit, and then that was different from what I was allowed to wear to school or to out in the world or whatever. Like, those were different things. So I was able to kind of like put outfits together and things like that, but it was always within the confines of a safe space. So I think it's totally normal and natural for girls North's age, 12, you know, preteen, teen, to be like experimenting with different outfits, with fashion, with looks. Like, I think that can be fun. That said, it's different when you're trying to like play dress up, so to speak, in your own home, and when you're taking that out into the world for everybody else to see. They're different things. And look, North is a public figure. Now, I do think that there are a lot of people that buy into the narrative that celebrities are just victims of the public eye and that they just don't have any privacy and they can't have any privacy. Most celebrities, first of all, they didn't become celebrities on accident. Like, they went for being celebrities. And the big secret that celebrities don't want you to know is they can stay private if they want to stay private. It's actually not that difficult. I mean, it can be more difficult to do certain things, but there are plenty of celebrities, big name celebrities, that keep their personal lives and their family lives private. It can be more difficult for big name celebrities to keep their children out of the spotlight, but at the end of the day, it's not as difficult as they make it seem. The Kardashians having their kids in the public eye is absolutely a choice. Like, they're not just like victims to this. Like, it's not like, oh my God, they can't help it, so we just have to go with it. Like, it's their choice. Like, they made the choice to do this. So, you know, if Kim wanted to give North a more normal childhood and have her grow up outside of the public eye, it would be more difficult because of who her parents are, but it absolutely would be feasible. So the choice to have North so much in the spotlight is absolutely a conscious choice they're making. Maybe North wants it that way. I mean, at 12, she's not really old enough to make that decision, I don't think, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to keeping her in or out of the public eye at the end of the day, but they're making the choice to do it. It's not like they're victims of this. So I just want to make that very clear. There's plenty of celebrities that are able to keep their children's lives more private. But now North is the oldest child of Kim and Kanye, and she always was the rebel. Like, she always was more of a daddy's girl, and she was always more the one that wanted to rebel against Kim, and that was kind of the way she always seemed to be growing up. She seemed to be a lot more like her dad. When Kim and Kanye divorced, you know, North being the oldest, I think she took it the hardest, which is understandable. However, it really did seem like initially, and I feel like Kim has even alluded to this on her Hulu show, that North was always like siding with her dad. She was always on her dad's side, and then at one point there was like a flip and she started to be more like on her mom's side and with her mom. And I do think that that can happen in divorced families, you know, with kids, and if you're being split between two homes and two families. And you know, I think, you know, as kids are learning and growing and going through life and stuff, and you know, it's natural also for like preteens to be, you know, rebelling against one parent, and you know, maybe one parent is just more, they feel like is on their side and the other parent isn't, and like I think some of those transitions are normal. However, in North's case, it really does seem like, at least looking at it from the outside, like there was a very drastic shift in her, like being a daddy's girl, being on her dad's side, always siding with her dad, and kind of just rebelling against Kim. And all of a sudden there was that flip, and I feel like something happened. I hope it wasn't anything serious, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything serious because I don't know, and I would never make any kind of accusations like that if we don't know. So I'm not necessarily saying it's something dramatic. It could be, but I don't know. However, something happened where North all of a sudden felt like she wasn't on her dad's side and she wanted to be on her mom's side. There was a shift. It could be something as subtle as like maybe Kanye said no to something that North wanted to do and Kim said yes, and so now she's on her mom's side. It could be something that subtle. It could be something a lot more sinister, but I don't know. I do find it interesting because there was a story around the time that this was happening. I feel like North was with Kanye, and like I remember hearing, I don't remember if it was Kim dropped everything to pick up North and get her, or if Kim sent security to like bring North home soon, and there was some kind of drama around that. I feel like something had to have happened, and I mean, I hope honestly for everybody's sake that it was nothing that serious and it was just typical preteen stuff. However, for there to be such a drastic shift in aligning with one parent and then shifting to aligning with another parent, I can't help but think that there had to have been something going on there. They say the saddest day in a child's life is the day that she realizes that her father is human and imperfect. You know, that happens at different ages for different people. It's possible that that's just what North was going through, you know, that maybe she is now aligning more with her mom because she, you know, it started to realize that her father had issues. I mean, I don't think you can argue, and I'm pretty sure Kanye's even admitted that he has issues. Whether you think that whatever issues he has justify his behavior, whole other conversation. Kanye's not mentally stable. We all know that. Having a mentally unstable parent is very traumatic for a child. Having a father that's mentally unstable, I think, I'm not saying it's worse than having a mother that's mentally unstable, but I think it's bad because fathers are supposed to be like a rock. They're supposed to be the rock and the stability of a family. They're supposed to be that masculine structure. Honestly, in today's society, most of them aren't. Some of that is mental instability, some of it's addiction. There's a lot of reasons why fathers are not, but at the end of the day, like having a mentally unstable father can feel incredibly unsafe for a child. Not saying having a mentally unstable mother isn't also traumatic for a child, but I think we focus on the stability of the mother because it's sort of like the mother is the default parent, but I don't think we really get into what having a mentally unstable father does for a child. There is a part of me that very much empathizes with North, knowing how painful it is to have a mentally unstable father and having to kind of come to the realization of your father's flawed stability at a young age. And I mean, that can cause so many other issues and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that Kanye's come out with a few like lists and stuff. And it was around the time that like Kim kind of picked up North abruptly that Kanye posted something about like his enemies list or betrayal list or something. And I feel like North was on there. And it's like, you know, come on, she's your child. Like, I get that Kanye has a public feud with Kim, and I always think it's a bad sign when divorced parents that have children like publicly try to go after each other, because like you have to keep in mind you have children that are going to see this. So as bad as your relationship might be or things like that, like I think you have to be careful with that stuff. But then Kanye is kind of publicly attacked his kids at times, and I think that that's gonna weigh on North. And I think that, you know, we have to factor in some of these things that like, while Northwest has a life of privilege that most of us will never understand, that life comes with drawbacks. It does. And there's no amount of money that's gonna make having a mentally unstable father, and arguably both parents that show highly narcissistic qualities, like there's no amount of money that's gonna fix that, but it will help pay for her therapy. So hopefully she gets it. Now, in the conversation of like North being 12 and wearing a corset and dressing very inappropriately, I keep seeing this repeating theme that people keep saying, like, this is why you have to have fathers in the picture. This is why father figures are so important. This is what Kanye was warning everybody about when it came to the Kardashians. And they're saying this stuff because North is out with Kim, so obviously Kim is approving of the outfits that North is wearing. Whether she's picking them out, we don't know. Whether Kim actually likes the outfits or doesn't, we don't know at the end of the day, but Kim is allowing it because she is the parent in charge at this moment. The thing that I think people are forgetting, and look, I'm all for the importance of father figures. I'm all for the importance of discipline and structure for kids and things like that. But people seem to be forgetting that the father figure in this scenario is Kanye West. And yes, like when I saw the pictures of North in her corset and her mini skirt and everything, and then I saw what Kim was wearing, like I was like, I think what Kim was wearing, granted she's an adult, but I thought that was a pretty inappropriate look for someone who's like going around on vacation with her kids. But it's still not even as inappropriate as the outfits that Kanye has his new wife Bianca parading around in. Like they're literally parading her around with no clothes on whatsoever. People are kind of arguing like, well, this is what Kanye was trying to warn us about, that the Kardashians were going to exploit his kid. It's like, but Kanye is exploiting his wife. Now granted she's a legal adult, but I mean, it's not like if North was with Kanye and she's like, I want to wear a corset, and Kanye's like, no, she's gonna be like, well, yeah, but your wife is walking around butt naked. So like, I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that both of these parents are failing this kid. Like both of these parents are not setting a good example for this child. Like Kanye is notoriously known for exploiting women sexually, and Kim is known for exploiting herself sexually and all of her family and everything. So like, I don't think this is an instance where you're like, oh, this kid would be better off with the father. Kanye's proven that he's mentally unstable. He's proven that he's okay sexually exploiting women. I gotta admit, honestly, with Kanye's mental instability, I mean, and look, I have no idea if Kanye would ever intentionally put North in harm's way, but considering the way that Kanye acts, considering what we know about his mental stability, I highly doubt that he would be monitoring her enough to make sure that she wasn't put in a unsafe situation, because that's actually one of the primary problems with having a mentally unstable parent, is even if that parent is not putting you in harm's way, oftentimes depending on what their mental instability issue is, they're not paying enough attention to the child or aware enough of the situation to keep the child safe. And that's your job as a parent. Like that's like your primary job as a parent, is to keep your child safe. That's like bare minimum base level to keep your child safe. And unfortunately, I don't buy the narrative that like, well, this is why you have to have fathers in the picture. Yeah, if you have a father who's going to keep your child safe, then yes, it's important. It's these conversations that always bring up, like, I get that the statistics show that having a father in the home is better for the child. However, we need to factor in how good a parent he is. Like, we need to factor in if this is a good, healthy father figure. Because having a father in the home just for the sake of having a father in the home is not necessarily better for the child if it's going to be an unsafe man or a man who's not going to keep the child safe. Like, whether he's actually the one that's going to hurt the child or whether he's just not the type of person that's going to keep the child safe. When I see these arguments about, you know, oh, well, North needs a father figure and you know, and this and that, and Kanye tried to warn us. Well, Kanye had 4 kids with Kim, and he knew Kim for a long time before this, so it's not like, you know, Kim baby trapped him. They had surrogates, they did all that. I mean, you know, it's like we always go to the woman being like, well, she should have chose better, maybe Kanye should have chose better. But we're not talking about a father figure here who's mentally stable. We know Kanye's mentally unstable. We're talking about a father who's parading his new wife around and exploiting her in front of the kids. I mean, the kids see that, especially North being the oldest. I know we like to put a lot of the blame on Kim, and look, I don't like to defend Kim and her parenting by any means, but I think I'm seeing too many people that are like, oh, if Kanye was involved, this wouldn't be happening, or if the father figure was involved, this wouldn't be happening. Kanye's just as bad an influence as Kim, so I think we need to be really careful about pointing fingers in that situation. I also find it interesting that there's a big conversation around, oh, well, we know the Kardashians are famous for exploiting children and exploiting girls when they're underage. I don't like to defend Kim Kardashian, and I don't like to defend Kris Jenner, okay? There's a whole slew of reasons why they're problematic for society. However, I stand by the fact that as creepy as it is that Kris was the mother and involved in Kim and Ray J's tape that made them famous. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please study your pop culture history. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with the Kim Ray J tape scandal, think about it like this. Taylor Swift is the new Ray J. This might be controversial, but I'm just gonna say it. Taylor Swift is the new Ray J. She slept with someone and made their whole family famous, and now they will not go away. The mainstream only knows who the Kelseys are because one of them allegedly, if you believe it's real, sleeping with Taylor Swift. Now we know the whole family. They would literally just be known in the football world. They would not be mainstream famous had Taylor Swift not stepped in and like made that whole family famous, to paraphrase Kanye. In the same way that Ray J slept with Kim and now the Kardashians have literally taken over. Just saying. I know that might be controversial, but yes, Taylor Swift is the new Ray J. Frankly, I'd like it to stop because I'm so tired of people getting famous just based on who they're sleeping with, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, as much as I don't like to defend Kim Kardashian and I do not like to defend Kris Jenner, when it comes to the Kim Ray J tape that made Kim famous, yes, it is creepy that Kris as the mom was willing to exploit her daughter this way. However, I stand by the fact that Kim was a legal adult when this happened. Kim was in on this whole scenario. This was, you know, what Kim wanted was to be famous. She went along with this. She slept with her boyfriend. And it's weird that Kris as the mom was willing to exploit this and supposedly watch it and participate in this. But we're talking about all legal adults here. And I stand by the fact that it is absolutely not the worst thing that a mother has done to exploit her child to get them into show business. It's not even close to the worst thing that mothers have done, because we know that there are parents who are specifically like selling their children into Hollywood, allowing anything to happen to them just for fame. So the Kim Ray J scandal, while it is creepy, Kris's involvement, we're talking about all legal adults here, and it is by no means, it's one of the more public sexual exploitations that's happened in order to make someone famous. It's like a very obvious one that we can see, but compared to what goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood and the entertainment industry, it doesn't even scratch the surface for like the worst way that a parent has exploited their child in order to get in the industry. In this case, it's a mother, but like mothers and fathers are both exploiters when it comes to children in this industry. And it's also mostly male predators in this industry, so don't come for me that this is like a momager problem. This is like a parental problem and an industry problem. So again, not defending it. However, it seemed like with the older girls, at least what we knew publicly, they were legal adults when they got famous. Like, I remember when the Kardashians got famous, and Kim Kardashian is the same age as me. So, you know, they were adults. I don't know what was going on when they were underage. There's rumors about Khloe and her maybe being on like rap tour buses when she was underage, and who knows how much Kris had to do with that or anything. I don't know, but a lot of that stuff is rumors and speculation, so I don't know. But at least publicly with the older Kardashian girls, there was nothing publicly known about like underage exploitation. And I would even argue with Kendall, like she was modeling, and obviously there's a lot of sketchy stuff that happens in the modeling world. It's not uncommon for models to start modeling when they're underage. We don't know. I mean, the industry is what it is. If anything was happening with her being exploited underage, it was behind the scenes. Things shifted with Kylie. Kylie was the turning point where she was underage and being exploited very blatantly. And she like showed up on her 18th birthday with like a full new body and face and like all this plastic surgery. Again, I would argue that even like the older Kardashian girls started getting their surgeries, which they absolutely did not need because they were beautiful before, but like they started getting their surgeries when they were adults. Granted, some of that was the time because some of these surgeries were less accessible. So, you know, as the family got more famous, they got access to more money, they got access to more surgeries. Surgeries advanced over time. Kylie is quite a bit younger, so like some of this was the times. But Kylie, who was in a very public relationship with a much older man while she was underage, she was getting all these surgeries, she was being very sexually exploited. And whether or not the Kardashians were actually exploiting her, or whether it was a situation of she was choosing to go this route, she got with the older guy, she was choosing to do this and nobody was protecting her, I don't know. I don't know, again, I don't know if this was something she was pushed into because, you know, Kris was trying to go that route, or if it was something that like Kylie was doing and like her parents just weren't protecting her. But there's no question that Kylie was the one that was very publicly sexually exploited at a young age. But she's billionaire-ish. I guess there's controversy about that. But she's been like handed a career, she's been handed everything. But Kylie is the first one of that family that was very obviously sexually exploited at an underage. So when people talk about, oh, this family has a history of sexually exploiting underage girls, as far as what we know publicly, it was Kylie. So the others were adults and we don't know what was going on behind the scenes. So as far as like the public image, it was mostly Kylie. But it does seem like a lot of the next generation of that family is starting to be exploited at a young age. And North being, she's not the oldest girl, Penelope's older. But I do think Kourtney and Scott kind of keep Penelope, like she's not hiding from the public, but I think they're not really trying to push her as an it girl like they're obviously trying to do with North. You know, the fact that North is spending so much time with her mom could very well be that North wants celebrity and wants attention, which is what her mom wanted, and obviously Kanye wanted that too, that's what North wants, and Kim is allowing her to do that. I know on the Hulu show, Kim's talked about being a momager and how she's like having to adjust to having to be North's momager, so it's possible that now North is siding with the mom because she feels like her mom is gonna help get her there, and that's what North wants. I mean, I don't know, again, this is speculation, but exploiting themselves is all that family knows. I mean, that really is what it is. I mean, that's their marketable skill. I know she had what people said was kind of a failing attempt at, you know, her Lion King performance and stuff like that. Like, I do think that you're gonna find that North is gonna get a lot of opportunities, you know, through nepotism that she probably isn't ready for. And unfortunately, if you're not careful with that, like, I know it's difficult to turn down those opportunities, but if they keep putting her in the spotlight in opportunities that she's really not ready for and she keeps failing, it's gonna come back to haunt her later on. So I mean, I think they would be much better off actually trying to maybe get North some acting lessons or singing lessons or, you know, dance classes, like really trying to get her into, if she really wants to be in the public eye, like try to get her some talent and skill and things like that. But what that family knows is exploitation. So it's not really that shocking that they're gonna try to exploit her because that's what they know. It's just that it hasn't happened in that family with somebody this young before, which I think it's a disturbing trend. It's a sign of the times. And unfortunately, I think it really does speak to a bigger issue that little girls are not allowed a childhood. We expect little girls to be grown adults and show up like grown adults pretty much from birth. Boys don't have that problem. We actually don't expect boys to grow up ever. Like, we've accepted that adult men are just man children and never grow up. You know, it's like, you look at a 12-year-old girl, you're like, oh, she knows what she's doing. You look at a 50-year-old man, you're like, well, he's still got some growing up to do. Like, I mean, in our society, it's so twisted. Like, we We never allow girls to have a childhood. Girls are just expected to be adults. If you even look at, I mean, it's heartbreaking to say, you look at the way that we as a society coddle Justin Bieber. Has he probably been exposed to very traumatic things being in the industry at such a young age? Yes. And we use that as an excuse for every behavior on the planet. It's like, oh, he's 30 and a father, but he is screwing up and he's got addiction problems and he's got this. Oh, well, it's what he's seen when he was a kid. And look, probably is. Like, it probably is trauma from that. But as an adult, it's his responsibility to heal. However, we don't give that same grace to underage girls that go through the same thing, or probably things even worse. If you find out later, if, like, you know, when North is 30, she starts talking about being traumatized because of the things that happened to her when she was a teenager in the industry around her parents or whatever, society won't give her that same grace. They won't. They will be like, oh, look at how she was dressed. This is probably going to be a controversial statement because it involves the way the world should be and the way the world is, and a lot of people don't want to accept that the world isn't the way it should be. We live in a world where what a woman or a girl is wearing is still used as a justification for her being mistreated. Should it be that way? No. Is it that way? Yes. Have we made improvements? I think we have, but not enough. I know that there's a temptation to be like, well, the world shouldn't be that way, so we're not going to teach young girls that that's the way the world is because it shouldn't be that way. However, it still is that way. So when we let 12-year-old girls walk around in corsets and miniskirts, because that absolutely is no excuse for them to be sexually exploited. However, they are still going to be sexually exploited. And I'm all for fighting the narrative that what a woman is wearing is asking for it. Like, I'm all for fighting that. The problem is adults have to fight that. Like, we can't sacrifice the children. Like, we can't sacrifice the children's safety in the name of pretending the world is the way it should be. So as much as I'm all for fighting that narrative that, like, oh, she was asking for it because of what she's wearing or whatever, I'm all for fighting that. As a grown adult, I will argue all day that that's not the way it should be. But unfortunately, that's still the way the world is. Girls still have to be taught that they have to protect themselves. They have to be taught that if you walk around dressed like a streetwalker, you're gonna be treated like a streetwalker. Is that the way it should be? No. Is that the way it is? Yes. One of the issues, one of the bigger issues when it comes to Northwest walking around at 12 years old in a corset and a miniskirt is that she's in the entertainment industry. And we know the types of people that her father is around. We know the types of people that her mother is around. So I'm not saying that she's necessarily going to be completely protected. But when it comes to her going out in the world, they've got security. Like, Northwest is not going to get, like, thrown in the back of a van and kidnapped and trafficked or something. She might get trafficked, unfortunately, in the industry, but that's a whole other conversation. But she has a security team around her. One of the problems, because we know how influential Kylie was on underage girls. Like, I mean, you literally had girls going to the hospital trying to get lips looking the way that Kylie did. So many girls got deadly BBL surgeries to try to look like Kylie when we know that she got surgery for that because that was not the body that she was born with. So many young girls were influenced by Kylie, most of them in very negative ways. My fear is there's going to be other girls 12 and even younger that are going to be influenced by North, and North is in a situation where she's out with her mom and she's got security around her, and that's not necessarily going to guarantee to keep her safe considering the industry that she's in and the type of people that she's probably around. But her walking around looking like that and the average 12-year-old girl walking around looking like that, totally different situation. And as much as the world should be such that a 12-year-old girl should be able to walk around wearing whatever, she should be able to walk around and have nobody take advantage of her or harm her or anything, but that's unfortunately not the world we live in. And as much as it's great to pretend that we live in a world where a woman or a girl should be able to dress the way she wants and not get harmed, that's not the world we live in. And again, I will say, you know, telling girls and women to dress modestly or whatever isn't necessarily going to keep them safe if they do. I mean, I literally have been sexually harassed on the street wearing like a puffer jacket, jeans, and snow boots. I mean, it's not necessarily what you're wearing, but I do think that as women, we need to be cautious. And I think we also need to teach young girls that they have to be cautious. They have to protect themselves. It would be a wonderful world if that was not the case, but unfortunately, as of right now, in this moment, it is. Fight to change that all you want, but we can't ignore the reality because it sacrifices the safety of children. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing come up in the Northwest corset miniskirt scandal, that North is developing. She has a more womanly body. I'm trying to be very tasteful because she's 12. So she looks older than she is. I feel like I can speak to this personally because when I was her age, I was very well developed. I was also incredibly tall for my age, and I was these came in young. So people always thought I was older. Like when I was 12, everybody thought I was 16. Anything that I put on, even if it was something that was totally appropriate for a 12-year-old, was seen as more sexual or more womanly because of my body type. So I know that there's a conversation around, well, North does have a more developed body, and look, at 12 years old, like, it's hit or miss when people go through puberty, when they don't. So there are some 12-year-olds that are already developing and some that haven't started yet. So like, that's an awkward age for anybody. I feel like I can speak to this because I've literally been in that situation. When I was younger, it absolutely bugged the hell out of me that like I couldn't wear the same things that like the girls that like hadn't gone through puberty or like the tiny petite girls were wearing and stuff. I always talk about the importance of father figures. My father didn't care at all what I was wearing. My mother was the one that had to police those things. And I resented her for it. I totally did. I fought her on it completely. Will admit that. Because at 12, I didn't understand. And I wasn't supposed to understand that at 12 because that's part of growing up. And I will fully admit that a part of me did feel very unnecessary shame in my body because I was forced to cover up more because my body was so developed at that age. And I mean, not saying it didn't cause some issues and stuff. So I understand that there's some people that are like, okay, but if North just wore a regular 12-year-old girl's outfit because she's more developed, it's gonna be sexualized anyway. It's true. I don't think anybody can argue that what she was wearing as far as like the corset, the mini skirt, like some of these outfits are not appropriate for any 12-year-old, but it is true. Anything she wears is probably gonna look more mature because she is more developed. I get it, I've been there. And again, at that age, I resented that. Absolutely felt shame in my body because I thought it meant there was something wrong with me that I was constantly having to cover up. However, now as an adult, like looking back on that and having been there, I get it now. Like I didn't get it at that time. I didn't get it when I was 12. And you know, look, maybe the adults around me should have done a better job explaining that. Like, I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, I think most of our parents are just doing the best they can, you know, even if they are terrible parents. I'm not saying my mom was a terrible parent, but I think she just didn't really know what to do with that because she hadn't experienced that. So in her situation, she didn't really know how to explain to me that like, okay, yeah, other girls can wear certain things, but like you're more developed than them, so like you have to dress like this because, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's a terrible feeling when you're that age to feel like you're different or to feel like there's something wrong with you because you're different. And sometimes I think parents don't necessarily handle it the best way. But now as an adult looking back on that, I have an appreciation for the fact that at the end of the day, my mom was just trying to keep me safe. You know, she was just afraid of the world. And again, it'd be great if we lived in a world where that wasn't the case and that, you know, young girls weren't unsafe based on what they wore or based on what their bodies looked like. But you know, we don't live in that world. And I think, you know, I'm all for fighting to make the world better, but we also have to live in reality as well. I mean, I do get it. Like, I do understand that, like, and some of the things I've seen North wear in the past, like Halloween costumes and things like that, and people are just sort of like, oh my gosh, she got so much cleavage. I'm like, part of me is just like, oh my god, I get it, because when I was her age, like, anything I wore looked like it had a lot of cleavage. Like, I feel for her because it's like sometimes you just want to wear stuff that like other girls your age are wearing, and like your outfits just look more sexual, and I get that. But also on the flip side, now as an adult, looking back on that, I'm grateful that I had an adult and my mom in my life trying to protect me. And it's also interesting because my dad did nothing to protect me. I mean, I could have walked out butt naked and he wouldn't have said anything. He just didn't care. In hindsight, I actually have more resentment for him. Like, in the moment, I resented my mom more for trying to cover me up because I thought that meant that there was something wrong with me, and I resented her for that, and thought that my dad was like the cool dad because like he didn't care what I wore. Now as an adult looking back on that situation, I actually appreciate my mom trying to keep me safe, and I actually resent my dad more for not stepping in and actually caring enough to keep me safe. Again, parents are kind of just, you know, doing what they think is right and whatever, and you know, hindsight's 20/20. But I just think at the end of the day, I think children, in the moment when you're trying to rebel, sometimes you wish that you had like a cool parent, or you can side with the cool parent sometimes. I think as you get older, especially if you end up not being safe, but even aside from that, I think sometimes as an adult you realize that the parent that kind of maybe was stricter and wasn't necessarily the fun one, but was actually trying to keep you safe, you have an appreciation for that more than the parent that you realize like just didn't really care. And I wish the best for North. I do. I think she's going down a really scary path. I hope she's being protected. Like, I hope that this look and this image and everything and this, you know, public persona and attention and stuff like that, I hope nothing more serious happens. But we're talking about the entertainment industry, and from everything I know about the entertainment industry, the chances of her actually being safe are slim to none. Her family knows this, and they're still choosing to put her in the industry, and they're not the only ones. Like, I'm not just solely putting this on the Kardashians. I think that this adultification of young girls it's a bigger issue. Like, North's image, I think, is more sexualized for shock value. I would argue, I think Blue Ivy is being pushed into the spotlight, and I don't think that her looks are as sexualized as North's outfits have been, but I think that they're definitely trying to make her look older than she is intentionally. And don't come for me. I was 12, everybody thought I was 16. I was tall and very busty. So like, I understand that, you know, sometimes when you're young, people think you look older, and that happens. Like, I saw a video of like Ice and Coco and their daughter Chanel. Granted, she's 9, I think, so she's a couple years younger than North and Blue, but she was dressed like a little girl, you know what I mean? Like, she looked like a 9-year-old girl, and it was amazing because so many people are like, oh my god, she still looks like a little girl. It's like, she's 9, she's supposed to look like a little girl. And to think that it's just like in a couple years she'll be the same age as like North and Blue, I mean, who would have thought that Ice-T and Coco would be the ones that had a little girl that looks like she's actually gets to be a little girl. Again, I've talked about this before. I think the fact that we don't allow little girls to be little girls, we kind of push them to grow up. And again, I would argue, I mean, in North, it's like this like kind of sexualized shock value thing. I think in the Blue Ivy case, I think the fact that she's touring with her mom and she's performing and she's like 13, she's not getting a childhood. Like, she's not, and I don't think that that's fair to her. I mean, they're setting her up obviously for a much more successful career. However, in a world where we shame Britney Spears' parents for pushing her to be a star and pushing her into the spotlight and pushing her to be famous so young, and saying that that's the reason why she screwed up, because she was pushed to perform at such a young age and they were just exploiting her for fame and money and this and that. But yet we're sitting back and celebrating Jay-Z and Beyonce, bringing their daughter on tour, putting her on stage, putting her to work, pushing her to perform. It's like, to me, that's pretty hypocritical. It's like, you either believe that exploiting a child for fame and money is acceptable, or you don't. And it's like, are we gonna wait until Blue ends up having a mental breakdown like Britney before, you know, we say something? We're gonna be like, oh, it's so great that this 13-year-old is now like performing every night, going on tour. Is she getting an education? I don't know. I hope she is. But like, at the end of the day, we're looking at, you know, Britney, we're looking at Justin, we're looking at so many of these child stars that were pushed so hard. I mean, we know Demi Lovato's had issues, Selena Gomez has had issues, all of these people that were pushed at such a young age to be famous. Miley Cyrus has gone off the rails a few times. Yet we're watching it happen with like Blue, Northwest. Did we not learn anything from the previous child stars that got pushed into work and fame and everything at such a young age? At what point are we gonna say like, maybe we shouldn't be having tweens and teens working at such a young age? Maybe they shouldn't be exploited in the industry that young, you know what I mean? I mean, it's, even make the argument that with people like, you know, Britney Spears or Justin Bieber or things like that, like, they grew up poor and they only have the life that they have because they were pushed into fame at such a young age, and they would just be poor if they didn't. When you look at someone like Blue Ivy or Northwest, they're never gonna be poor. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need the money. I mean, them being exploited at this age is really just greed on the parents' part, because at the end of the day, like, these kids are going to be set up anyway. You don't have to start them this young, getting them famous and pushing them into the spotlight and stuff. You don't have to do that at that age. They could wait until they're 18 and make the decision themselves if that's the industry that they want to get into, and they would still be able to get in through nepotism, considering who their parents are. Yeah, we really got to revamp and rethink this child star thing, because it's clearly not working very well, and it doesn't turn out very well. And there are some people that overcome it for sure, but not a lot. Like, the stats aren't good. So I truly hope that all the kids are safe and everybody's safe and everybody's good, but I do worry, particularly talking about North and the way she's being dressed and the way she's being exploited. And again, they're doing it because we're talking about it. And, you know, I don't really like promoting it, but I do think it's a valid conversation to have, because I feel like nobody's protecting her. I don't think that her father being more in the picture would help, unless he gets help, because he's not setting a very good example either. And obviously neither is her mom and her mom's family. So I wish everybody the best. If you have any thoughts on anything in this video, anything I talked about, or any other topic suggestions or anything like that, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love your thoughts, and I love your video suggestions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, and be sure you subscribe to my channel. Honestly, any engagement on this channel really does help to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message. If you want to heal your pick-me energy and connect to your dark feminine energy and your sovereignty, step into your confidence, then please check out my guided journals, the Dark Feminine Energy Guided Journal and the Recovering Pick Me Girl Guided Journal. They're both available on Amazon. Links are in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.